The town of Briar Haven liked to pretend nothing truly bad could happen there. It sat tucked between long ranch roads and wide Texas skies, the kind of place where people waved at strangers and remembered your coffee order after the second visit. A place where weddings were community events and church announcements traveled faster than radio, and for weeks, the only thing anybody wanted to talk about was the wedding. Mara Ellison was getting married in 7 days. 7. It was the kind of countdown that made people smile without realizing it. 7 days until the big white dress. 7 days until the flowers and the vows and the photos that would sit on mantles for decades. 7 days until Mara Ellison, Briar Haven's golden girl, became Mara Ellison Hart. The thing about Mara was that she was easy to love, not in that artificial, small-town pageant way where people love you because they have to. Mara was the kind of woman who remembered birthdays without needing Facebook reminders. She volunteered at the animal shelter every Saturday morning. She had a laugh that filled up rooms and made you laugh just because she did. She was the friend who showed up when your car broke down, and the daughter who never forgot to call her mama at night, and she was glowing lately. That was what everyone said. She's glowing, her mother, Denise, told anyone who would listen, even strangers in the grocery aisle. She's finally happy, her best friend, Ivy Lane, said with a grin as she pinned up wedding invitations on Mara's kitchen table. Even the older folks at First Baptist, people who usually reserved praise for newborn babies and freshly baked pies, admitted Mara looked like she'd stepped into the kind of life the rest of them only prayed for. Her fiancé, Clayton Hart, seemed to be the missing piece. Clayton wasn't from Briar Haven originally. He'd moved in 2 years ago, bought a fixer-upper on the edge of town, and started working as a project manager with a construction company that picked up contracts across the county. He was handsome in a steady, clean-cut way. The kind of man who shook hands firmly and made eye contact. The kind of man who brought flowers to Mara's mama the first time he came over for dinner, and he adored Mara openly. He held her hand in public. He kissed her forehead when she talked. He smiled like he was proud to be standing beside her. People love that, because people love love, especially when they can watch it from a safe distance. The week before the wedding, Briar Haven was wrapped in celebration. There were flower deliveries and cake tastings. There was a rehearsal dinner menu debate that got heated enough to make Ivy threaten to walk out of the diner. There were bridesmaid dresses draped over couches, and suit fittings, and the kind of joyful chaos that made Mara's little bungalow feel like a living, breathing thing. On Monday night, Mara stayed up late addressing the last batch of thank you cards. Clayton had gone home early because he had an early meeting the next morning, but he'd kissed her goodbye at the door and promised he'd call before bed. He did call, at 10:13 p.m., his voice sounded tired, like he'd been running all day. "You okay?" Mara asked him, smiling as she leaned the phone against her cheek. "Yeah," Clayton said. "Just work stuff." "You okay?" "I'm perfect," Mara said, and she meant it. "I was just thinking. This time next week, I'll be your wife." Clayton chuckled softly. "Yeah. That's the plan." She heard a pause. A faint sound in the background. "Like a door closing, Mara," he said, and his voice shifted slightly, as if he was choosing words carefully. "You locked your doors tonight?" Mara blinked. "What?" "Just asking," Clayton said. "Town's been weird lately." Mara laughed once, light and easy. "Briar Haven is never weird. It's boring on purpose." "Still," Clayton said. "Promise me you'll lock up." "I always do," Mara said, even though sometimes she forgot. "Promise." "Okay," he said. "I love you." "I love you more," she replied automatically. Clayton didn't argue like he usually did. He just said, "Good night, sweetheart," and ended the call. Mara sat there a second, phone still against her cheek, staring at the wall. Something about the conversation felt off, not wrong exactly, just thin, like a curtain pulled too tight. She shook it off, because joy was louder than doubt. And she had wedding things to do. She finished her cards, washed her coffee mug, and made her way around the house turning off lights. She checked the front door lock, then the back, She paused at the back door. She thought she saw something outside, beyond the porch light. A shape. A movement. She leaned closer, peering through the glass. Nothing. Probably a raccoon, she told herself. She turned off the porch light and went to bed. On Tuesday, Ivy came over around noon with a bag of pastries from the bakery downtown and a bridesmaid emergency kit she insisted was non-negotiable for survival. Mara was in the bedroom trying to decide between two pairs of earrings. Ivy was sprawled across the bed, chewing thoughtfully, flipping through a wedding magazine even though everything was already planned. "I still can't believe you're doing this," Ivy said. Mara smiled into the mirror. "Getting married?" "Getting married to him," Ivy corrected, tone playful but eyes sharp. "Mr. Perfect." Mara rolled her eyes. "You like Clayton?" "I like that you're happy," Ivy said. That was Ivy's way. She could compliment you and question you in the same sentence. Mara sat beside her. "What's that supposed to mean?" Ivy shrugged. "It means I've known you since 9th grade and I can tell when your smile is real. And right now it's real. That's all." Mara leaned her head on Ivy's shoulder. "You're going to make me cry." "Not before your makeup appointment," Ivy said quickly, pushing her away. "No ma'am. Save it." The day moved forward like most wedding weeks did. Busy and bright. Mara went to the florist. She argued politely with the lady at the rental company about chair covers. She drove by the venue twice to make sure the entrance sign was still standing. She didn't see Clayton until evening. He showed up at her house with takeout and a tired grin. "Look at you," Mara said, stepping into his arms. "You look exhausted." Clayton kissed her cheek. "Work's a beast." Mara pulled back slightly to look at him. "You've been saying that a lot." Clayton's smile held, but his eyes flickered for just a heartbeat. "Because it's true." She wanted to ask more, but then his phone buzzed and he looked down at it too quickly, like someone who wasn't expecting to be interrupted. Mara noticed it. She always noticed things. Clayton tapped the screen and cleared his throat. "I gotta take this." "Who is it?" Mara asked lightly. Clayton already had the phone to his ear. "Just a guy from work." He stepped outside onto the porch. Mara stood in the hallway, staring at the closed door. She told herself she was being silly. The closer you got to big life changes, the more your brain tried to find problems. That was normal. That was what everyone said. Still, her stomach felt tight. When Clayton came back in, he was smiling again, but it looked practiced, like he'd rehearsed it on the way back through the door. "Everything okay?" Mara asked. Clayton nodded. "Yeah. Just confirming tomorrow." "Tomorrow?" Mara repeated. Clayton froze. Instead, it made her feel cold. On Wednesday, Briar Haven hosted the bridal shower at Denise Ellison's house. It was the kind of event that looked like a postcard: pink lemonade in glass jars, finger sandwiches cut into neat triangles, wrapped gifts stacked like colorful bricks, women in floral dresses smiling like it was their job. Mara floated through it all, hugging aunties and accepting advice she didn't ask for. "Never go to bed mad," someone said. "Always keep his stomach full," someone else whispered. "Men are simple creatures," an older cousin giggled. Mara smiled politely and tried not to roll her eyes too hard. Clayton was supposed to stop by at the end to say hello and pick Mara up. He was late, by an hour. Mara's mother tried to cover it. "Oh, you know men," Denise said, waving her hand like it was nothing. "He's probably stuck on a job site." Mara stood at the front window, staring down the street. Her phone buzzed, a message from Clayton, running behind. "Sorry, sweetheart. I'll make it up to you," Mara typed back. "Are you okay?" No response. Ivy stood beside her, arms crossed. "If he's like this now, imagine him during football season." Mara laughed, but it came out sharp. "Stop." Ivy's eyes softened. "Mara. I'm not trying to ruin your happiness. I just don't like when you get that look." "What look?" "The one you get when you're pretending you don't feel something." Ivy said. Mara's throat tightened, then Denise called her name, and someone needed help carrying gifts, and the moment slipped away. Clayton finally arrived just after sunset. He hugged Denise. He shook hands with the men outside. He smiled at Mara like everything was fine, but when he leaned in to kiss her, she smelled something on him. Not perfume, not food, something metallic, like pennies. She pulled back slightly. What is that smell? Clayton blinked. What smell? Mara tried to laugh it off. Nothing. Probably the candles. Clayton's jaw tightened just a touch. Yeah. Probably. He drove her home with one hand on the steering wheel and the other resting on her thigh, but his grip was a little too firm, like he was reminding himself she was there. In the house, he set down her gifts and looked around like he was checking corners. Mara watched him. What are you doing? She asked. Clayton forced a smile. Nothing. You're acting strange, Mara said quietly. Clayton's eyes flashed. Then softened. Then flashed again. I'm just stressed, he said. The wedding, work, everything. Mara took a breath. Clayton, if something's wrong, you can tell me. Clayton stepped closer, put both hands on her shoulders, and looked directly into her eyes. His voice was gentle, too gentle. There's nothing wrong, he said. Okay? Mara nodded, because something in his expression made it hard not to. Clayton kissed her forehead and left shortly after. That night, Mara couldn't sleep. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling, replaying moments, the phone calls, the late arrivals, the smell. The way his eyes kept checking the windows like someone might be watching. At 2:17 a.m., her phone buzzed. A message from an unknown number. You don't know him like you think you do. Mara sat up so fast her heart slammed against her ribs. She stared at the message, then typed back. Who is this? No reply. She tried calling the number. It went straight to voicemail. She tried again. Same thing. Mara sat there, breathing hard, staring at the glowing screen. Then her phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Don't marry him. Mara's fingers went numb. Her mind raced. This could be a prank. A bitter ex, someone jealous. But it didn't feel like a prank, it felt like a warning. She texted Ivy. Are you awake? Ivy responded instantly, yes. What's wrong? Mara hesitated. She didn't want to say it out loud, even in text. Like if she named it, it would become real. Finally, she typed, someone's texting me to not marry Clayton. 3 dots appeared. Disappeared. Appeared again, then Ivy's message came through, send screenshots. Right now, Mara did. Ivy replied, do not ignore this. Come to my place in the morning. We'll talk. Mara stared at her phone until the screen dimmed, then she placed it face down like it might bite her. On Thursday morning, Mara went about her routine like she was wearing someone else's skin. She showered, dressed, smiled at her own reflection like everything was fine. Then she drove to Ivy's. Ivy lived in a small duplex above a hair salon. She opened the door before Mara even knocked. Ivy's face was serious. Come in. Mara walked inside, heart pounding. Ivy sat her down at the kitchen table and placed her phone on the table like evidence. Okay, Ivy said. Let's start from the beginning. Has Clayton been acting weird? Mara swallowed. Kind of. But I thought it was wedding stress. Ivy leaned forward. Mara. I need you to be honest. No protecting him. No protecting the dream. Mara's eyes stung. I don't know what's real anymore. Ivy nodded slowly. Okay. That's enough. Ivy grabbed her laptop and started typing. What are you doing? Mara asked. Checking, Ivy said. Because if someone is bold enough to text you at 2 a.m., there's a reason. Mara watched Ivy click through social media pages, old posts, tagged photos. Ivy was good at digging. Always had been. In high school, she found out who started rumors in under 10 minutes flat. She was the kind of friend who could smell a lie through a wall. Mara, Ivy said quietly. Mara's stomach dropped at the sound of her name in that tone. Ivy turned the laptop. On the screen was a photo. Clayton, standing beside a woman with dark hair and a sharp smile. The caption read, 2 years today. Wouldn't trade you for the world. The date stamp was 18 months ago. Mara's throat closed. That's not me. Ivy shook her head. No. It's not. Mara's hand started shaking. Maybe it's an old post, Mara whispered. Ivy scrolled. It's not old enough. Mara stared at the screen like it might change if she stared hard enough. You don't understand, Mara said, voice breaking. Clayton told me he hadn't been serious with anyone in years. Ivy's jaw tightened. Men say a lot of things. Mara felt like she couldn't breathe. Ivy kept scrolling, finding more traces. Photos. Comments. A tagged location in Dallas. A woman's profile full of travel posts and a photo of Clayton in the background at a beach. Mara grabbed her phone. She called Clayton. It rang, once, twice, then he answered. Hey, babe, Clayton said, voice bright. Too bright. Everything okay? Mara's voice came out small. Who is Sienna Vale? Silence, not the kind of silence where someone's thinking, the kind of silence where someone's caught. Clayton exhaled slowly. Where did you hear that name? Mara's eyes filled with tears. Answer me. Clayton's voice sharpened. Mara, not right now. Who is she? Mara repeated, louder now. Clayton sighed, like she was the problem. She's nobody. A mistake from my past. A mistake from 18 months ago? Ivy snapped in the background, loud enough to be heard. Clayton's tone changed instantly. Are you with Ivy? Mara swallowed. Yes. Clayton's voice went cold. Put her on the phone. Ivy leaned in. No, Clayton laughed once, humorless. This is exactly why I told you not to listen to other people, Mara. They'll poison your mind. Mara blinked. You told me that? Clayton paused. Mara realized then, like a sudden light turning on, how many times he'd casually dismissed people who questioned him. How often he'd framed doubt as betrayal. Clayton's voice softened again, sliding into a calm that felt almost dangerous. Mara, he said. Come home. We'll talk privately. Mara whispered, I am home. Clayton's breathing sounded heavier. Your house. I mean your house. Mara looked at Ivy. Ivy's eyes widened. Mara, Clayton repeated, slower, firmer, go to your house. I'll be there in 20 minutes. We will fix this. Mara's stomach turned. No, she said, surprising herself. No, Clayton. I'm not doing this right now. Clayton's voice snapped. Mara. She flinched at the sharpness. Ivy reached over and ended the call. Mara stared at Ivy, trembling. What if he's angry? Ivy grabbed Mara's hands. Let him be angry. Do you hear yourself? You're afraid of your fiancé. Mara's eyes spilled over. Ivy stood. We're going to the police. Mara froze. For what? For whatever is happening, Ivy said. This isn't normal. Mara shook her head. They'll say it's relationship drama. Ivy leaned down, face close to Mara's. Then we make it more than drama. We tell them about the messages. We tell them about the lies. We start a paper trail. Mara wiped her face. Okay. They left Ivy's apartment together. Mara didn't go home. She didn't want to be alone. They drove straight to the sheriff's office. Sheriff Nolan Kress was a man with tired eyes and a polite voice. He'd been sheriff long enough to know most danger came wrapped in familiarity. He listened as Mara explained the texts, the photos Ivy found, the phone call. He nodded slowly, fingers steepled on the desk. Do you feel unsafe? He asked. Mara hesitated, then she said the truth, I don't know. Sheriff Kress studied her for a moment. That means yes. Mara swallowed hard. Sheriff Kress asked for the screenshots. Ivy handed them over. He promised to look into the number. He promised to speak with Clayton. He promised. Promises are soft things. They don't stop hard people. When Mara and Ivy left the station, the sun was already sliding down, turning the Texas sky gold. Mara's phone buzzed. Clayton. She stared at it. Ivy shook her head. Don't answer. Mara ignored the call, then another, then another. Finally, a text. You're embarrassing me. Mara's fingers tightened around her phone. Another text came. If you don't come talk to me, you're going to regret it. Ivy read it over Mara's shoulder. Her face turned pale. Mara, Ivy said slowly, you're staying with me tonight. No arguing. Mara wanted to say no, to insist she could handle her own life, but her chest felt tight and her body felt like it didn't belong to her. She nodded. They drove back to Ivy's. Mara sat on Ivy's couch, staring at the wall, while Ivy locked every door, every window, and placed a baseball bat beside the couch like an extra pillow. You think he'd come here? Mara whispered. Ivy didn't answer right away. Then she said, I don't know what he'd do. That was the scariest part, not knowing. Later, as the night deepened, Mara's phone buzzed again. Unknown number. He knows you know. Mara's blood ran cold. Another message. If you want to live, don't be alone. Mara's breath hitched. Ivy snatched the phone and read it, then immediately dialed Sheriff Kress. Sheriff, Ivy said, voice tight, she's getting more messages. Someone's warning her. Mara listened to Ivy argue quietly, insistently, while her hands went numb. When Ivy hung up, her face was hard. They're sending a patrol past the building, Ivy said. Mara stared. Just past. It's all they can do without evidence of a direct threat, Ivy said, anger simmering. But they're taking it seriously. Mara's voice shook. I don't want to die. Ivy grabbed her face gently, forcing Mara to look at her. You won't, Ivy said. Not on my watch. The next day was Friday, 2 days before the wedding. Briarhaven woke up smiling, unaware. Denise Ellison posted on Facebook about the rehearsal dinner decorations. The florist delivered lilies and roses. The bakery finalized the cake. Mara should have been excited. Instead, she felt like she was walking through a dream where the walls were closing in. Clayton didn't show up at Ivy's. But he didn't stop calling. By noon, he'd left 7 voicemails. Mara didn't listen. She couldn't. At 3:08 p.m., Sheriff Kress called Ivy. Ivy put it on speaker. We traced the number that sent the messages, Sheriff Kress said. It's a prepaid burner. No owner attached. Mara's stomach dropped. And Clayton? Ivy asked. Sheriff Kress hesitated. Clayton Hart came by the station. Mara's heart jumped. What did he say? Sheriff Kress's voice was careful. He said you're stressed. That you're having cold feet. That Ivy's filling your head with nonsense. Ivy's face twisted. Of course he did. Sheriff Kress continued. But he also said something else. Mara held her breath. He wanted to know exactly where you were, Sheriff Kress said quietly. Mara felt ice pour down her spine. Sheriff Kress's voice sharpened. I told him I can't give out that information. I told him to give you space. Mara whispered, is he dangerous? Sheriff Kress paused, then he said, I can't call someone dangerous without proof. But I can tell you this, men who need to control where you are don't usually stop at words. Ivy's eyes burned. What do we do? Sheriff Kress sighed. Stay together. Keep your doors locked. Call if he shows up. And Mara. Consider postponing the wedding. Silence filled the room. Postponing. Canceling. Admitting the dream was wrong. Mara's throat tightened. My mother will be devastated. Ivy said, better devastated than planning your funeral. Mara flinched. Ivy softened. I'm sorry. But you know what I mean. Mara's eyes filled. For a long time, she said nothing. Then she whispered, I'll call my mom. Mara called Denise. Denise answered cheerful. Baby. How's my bride? Mara's voice shook. Mom. I need you to listen. Denise's tone shifted immediately. What's wrong? Mara tried to explain. The texts. The photos. The fear. Denise's voice rose with disbelief and anger. That is ridiculous, Denise said. Clayton loves you. Mama, Mara said, crying now, I don't feel safe. Denise went quiet, then, softer, Mara. Are you sure you're not just nervous? Mara's heart cracked. Nervous doesn't feel like this, Mara whispered. Please. Please believe me. Denise's breath sounded shaky. Okay, Denise said, voice trembling. Okay. I believe you. Come home. Mara blinked. Home? To me, Denise said. Come to my house right now. Ivy mouthed, yes, Mara nodded. Okay. We're coming. They gathered Mara's bag and left immediately. Denise lived 15 minutes away, in a ranch house with a wraparound porch. The kind of place that always smelled like laundry detergent and warm bread. When they arrived, Denise ran outside and pulled Mara into her arms like she was saving her. Oh baby, Denise whispered into her hair. Oh baby. Mara cried hard, like a dam breaking. Clayton didn't show up that afternoon, but something did. At 6:41 p.m., while Denise was inside making tea and Ivy was checking locks, Mara stepped onto the porch, needing air. The sun was low. The wind was soft, the road in front of the house was empty. Then a car passed, slowly, a dark sedan. It didn't stop, but it slowed enough that Mara could see the driver's silhouette. Mara's blood turned cold. She couldn't see his face clearly, but she knew the shape of his shoulders. She knew the way he held the wheel. Clayton. The sedan kept going. Mara stumbled backward into the house. Ivy, she gasped. Ivy rushed to her. What? He was here, Mara said, voice shaking. He drove past. Denise's face turned white. Ivy grabbed her phone. Sheriff. Now. That night, Denise insisted Mara sleep in her room, not the guest room. Like closeness could be armor. Ivy slept on the floor beside the bed with the baseball bat. Denise locked the doors twice. Around midnight, Mara woke up to a sound, a faint tap, then another. She held her breath. Tap. Tap, like someone testing the window. Ivy sat up instantly, eyes wide in the darkness. Mara, Ivy whispered, don't move. Tap. Tap, then silence, then a voice, low, outside, Mara. Mara froze. Her entire body turned to stone. The voice was quiet, almost sweet, like a lover calling through a screen door. Mara, it repeated. Ivy's hand tightened on the bat. Denise bolted upright in the bed, breath sharp. Mara? Denise whispered. Ivy shook her head, signaling silence. The voice came again. You can end this the easy way. Mara's heart slammed. Denise pressed a hand over her mouth to keep herself from crying out. Ivy grabbed her phone with trembling fingers and dialed 911. The voice outside became sharper. Open the window. Mara felt like she was going to vomit. Then a new sound, sirens, distant at first, then closer, growing louder, cutting through the night like a blade. The voice outside cursed under its breath. Footsteps ran across gravel, a car door slammed, an engine roared, and then it was gone. The patrol cars arrived moments later, lights flashing blue across the walls. Sheriff Kress himself came inside, face grim. Mara sat on the edge of the bed shaking so hard her teeth rattled. Sheriff Kress looked at Denise. Did you see him? Denise shook her head, tears streaming. No, Ivy's voice was shaking with rage. He was at the window. He said her name. Sheriff Kress nodded slowly. Okay. Okay. We have enough now. Mara looked up. Enough for what? Sheriff Kress's eyes met hers. Enough to take this seriously as an active threat. Enough to put units on the roads. Enough to bring Clayton, Indiana. Mara swallowed. Will you find him? Sheriff Kress nodded once. We will try. Dawn came like nothing had happened. Birds chirped. Sunlight spread across the porch. But the house felt different, heavy. Denise made coffee with shaking hands. Ivy sat at the table staring at her phone. Mara sat quietly, staring at her engagement ring like it belonged to a stranger. The wedding was tomorrow. But there would be no wedding. There couldn't be. At 9:12 a.m., Sheriff Kress called. They found Clayton's car, he said. Mara's heart stopped. Where? Abandoned off County Road 19, Sheriff Kress said. We're still searching. Mara, I need you to stay inside. Mara's voice shook. Is he running? Sheriff Kress paused. I don't know. Mara's hands trembled. The day stretched long and terrifying. At 2:30 p.m., Denise's phone buzzed with a message. From Clayton. Denise stared at it like it was poison. Mara leaned in. The message read, "Tell Mara I'm sorry." She forced my hand. Mara's blood went cold. What does that mean? Denise whispered. Ivy's voice cracked. It means he thinks he owns the ending. Mara stared at the message, brain spinning. Then her phone buzzed. Unknown number, last chance. Leave town. Now. Mara's chest tightened. He's coming. Denise's eyes went wild. We're leaving. Right now. Ivy nodded. Go. 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 They didn't pack. They didn't plan. Denise grabbed keys. Ivy grabbed the bat. Mara grabbed nothing but her phone. They ran out to the car. As they slammed doors and Denise turned the engine, a figure stepped from behind the side of the house. Mara saw him, Clayton. His face was twisted with something that wasn't love. It was rage. It was possession. It was the look of a man whose mask had fallen. Denise screamed and hit the gas. Clayton lunged toward the car, pounding the hood with his fist. Mara screamed. Ivy held the bat up like she'd swing if the window shattered. Denise drove like her life depended on it. Because it did. They tore down the road toward the main highway where patrol cars had been stationed earlier. Mara looked back through the rear window. Clayton stood in the road, watching them leave, and even from a distance, Mara could see his mouth moving like he was speaking to her, or cursing her, or promising something. Minutes later, they reached the patrol checkpoint. Denise slammed on the brakes and screamed for help. Deputies rushed forward. Mara spilled out of the car sobbing, barely able to stand. Sheriff Kress arrived soon after, face hard. Mara told him everything. Clayton at the window. Clayton in the yard. Clayton in the road. Sheriff Kress didn't hesitate this time. He put out an all-county alert. They found Clayton before sunset, not far from Denise's house, in a patch of woods near the creek. He didn't surrender quietly, but he did surrender, and when they took him away in handcuffs, the town of Briar Haven finally had to admit something it hated admitting. Monsters didn't always come from far away. Sometimes they smiled at your mother. Sometimes they held your hand. Sometimes they stood beside you at the altar practice and promised forever, and sometimes, they waited until you were 1 week from your happiest day to show you who they truly were. Mara's wedding dress stayed in the garment bag. The flowers never filled the church. The cake was never cut, but Mara lived. Weeks later, Ivy sat on Mara's porch, both of them holding coffee mugs like comfort. The sky was soft and pink. Mara stared out at the road. You know. What's crazy? Mara said quietly. What? Ivy asked. Mara swallowed. If I hadn't gotten those messages. If you hadn't believed me. I would have walked down that aisle. Ivy nodded slowly. And nobody would have known until it was too late. Mara's voice shook. Who do you think texted me? Ivy stared into her coffee. I don't know. Maybe that woman. Sienna. Maybe someone who escaped him before you. Mara whispered, whoever it was. They saved my life. Ivy leaned her head against Mara's shoulder. And you're going to do something with that? Mara blinked. What do you mean? Ivy's voice was firm. You're going to tell your story. Loud. So if another woman feels that cold feeling in her chest, she doesn't ignore it. So she doesn't call it nerves. So she doesn't call it love. Mara stared out at the road again. The wind moved through the trees. A quiet world, a world that almost swallowed her. She took a slow breath. Then she nodded, because some warnings were meant to be heard, and some endings were meant to be rewritten.